For almost everyone, the benefits of physical activity far outweigh any risks. For some individuals, specific advice from a qualified exercise professional or healthcare provider is advisable. If you have any concerns about becoming physically active, please refer to the Get Active questionnaire. The Spinal Cord Injury Physical Activity Guidelines suggest to build up to a minimum of 2 strength training sessions per week, including 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions for all major muscle groups. The resistance you use should be difficult enough that you can barely, but safely, perform 8 to 10 repetitions. It is recommended that we take 1 to 2 minutes of rest between each set. For more information, please refer to the Physical Activity Guidelines for adults with spinal cord injury. If you have reduced hand function, active hands will allow you to maximize your workout without being held back from lifting heavier weights due to reduced grip strength. Hook grips are an alternative to active hands that work in a fairly similar way. The only difference is they need to be adjusted depending on what direction we are pulling the band in. A Velcro waist strap can be used with anyone that has compromised core strength to help prevent falls and improve exercise technique. For many of the exercises, you'll notice a pillow can be used behind the back or on top of the knees to help with core stabilization as well. A leg strap can be used on top of these to help with comfort and stabilization of the lower extremities. Lastly, before we start our workout today, make sure you have checked out our videos on proper warm-up technique. Before starting our two-handed shoulder press, notice that the band is wrapped around both wheels at our waistline, so as we come up it is directly in line with the body. Our starting position will be sitting up nice and tall with our hands right above our elbows and our shoulders. We're going to have our hands facing inward in a neutral grip position, and we want to bring our hands up as high as possible and then come down slow and controlled by dropping the elbows. For our one-handed shoulder press, notice that everything is the same. We're using the exact same technique. The band is in the same spot. Just on the opposite side, we'll be holding it down on the wheel. If you want to get a core workout as you're doing your shoulder press, you can tie the band down to the wheel and put that hand over your chest so the body is a little bit less stable. For our two-handed rows, we want a starting position sitting up nice and tall, shoulders back. Our hands are directly ahead of us, right below chest level. As we pull our hands in, we want our elbows sliding directly by our torso. When we get to the very back, we want to bring our shoulder blades together and hold for a second. For our one-handed rows, we're going to have the exact same technique. Only difference, we'll have our opposite hand on our wheel to stabilize our core. Again, if we want a bit more of a core workout, we can take that hand off, put it on our chest, and then resist the twisting motion. Before starting the two-handed chest press, make sure that this is a safe position for you to be in your chair. We're going to start out slightly leaned back with the band wrapped around the back of the chair here. It can also be tied back to something directly behind us. Our hands are just below our shoulders, again in a neutral grip position with our palms facing each other. We're going to push directly out, hold for a second, and just like the rows, slide our elbows right back beside our torso. For our one-handed chest press, we're going to use the exact same technique. Only difference is the band is wrapped behind the back of the chair, and I'm holding it down on the opposite side with my hand. For our crunches, we're going to start with our hands across our chest and our backs nice and straight. We're going to tuck our chins to help activate the abdominal muscles a little bit more. When performing this exercise, understand that the further we move our hips forward to start, the harder the exercise will be. If we want to make this exercise more difficult, we can raise our hands above our head instead of keeping them across our chest. If you're finding that exercise too difficult, we can use our hands as momentum to bring ourselves forward. Again, we want to make sure we're using proper technique so the back stays straight, the head stays down, and the chin is tucked in. If this movement is still too difficult for you, we can use a weight in our hands while performing the same movement to give ourselves more of a counterbalance and make the exercise a little bit easier. For our back extensions, we're going to be doing the opposite movement of the crunches, coming as far forward as possible towards our knees. Notice in the video I have my hands across my chest. For safety purposes, if you're worried about falling forward, we can keep our hands on our knees. Just try to use your arms the least amount possible while bringing yourself back up. If this exercise is getting too easy and you're already able to come as far forward as possible, we can grab a resistance band, holding our hands perfectly straight, directly in front of us below chest level, and pulling up again using only our lower back. For our side to sides here, we want to keep the body perfectly straight, lean to one side as far as we can, and then back to the middle. Some people like to do both sides at the same time. That's fine, just make sure it's controlled the whole time and you're taking a quick pause in the middle. For safety purposes, if you're worried about going too far and falling over, we can keep the hand from the opposite side that we're pulling to on our tire, so that if you're ever worried about falling forward, you can pull yourself back. If you find the side to sides are getting too easy, we can wrap a band directly in line with our body, doing one side at a time while keeping the opposite hand directly above our chest so we can't use it as momentum as we come back up. For our bicep curl here, notice that from the side view, my shoulder, elbow, and hand are in a perfectly straight line. I've got the band beneath the tire so it's locked in. From the front view, you can notice that I've slouched over a bit to the side that I'm doing the bicep curl, and that's just to clear the tire. We're going to pull up nice and slow while doing a scooping motion with the hand. Come down slow and controlled. For our triceps extension, we're going to start out leaned forward while keeping the back straight. The band is directly in front of us around shoulder height. Elbow is tight to our torso. We're going to pull the hand back until the arm is perfectly straight. Hold for a second, and then repeat the movement. Slow and controlled the whole time. For our lateral raises, we're going to sit up nice and tall. I'm going to pull the band through the chair here. You notice that I can pull on it to fix my resistance. We're going to bring the hand up directly in line with the body. Notice that the arm is staying perfectly straight. We're going to bring it up to shoulder height, hold for a quick second, and then bring it back down, nice and controlled. For pull parts, we're going to start with the band around eye height, directly in front of us, with our hands slightly outside of our shoulders. We want to pull the band across our chest as far back as our hands can go while maintaining a straight back. Hold for a second, and then repeat the movement. If this exercise is too difficult for you because of your core stabilization, you can move forward in your chair so you're leaned back a little bit. For our external rotations, we're going to start with the band in our hands, palms up, elbows on our torso. They won't leave our torso the whole time. They'll stay at 90 degrees the whole time. We're going to pull out as far as we can while squeezing our shoulder blades together, and then come back smooth and controlled. For face pulls, we're going to start with the band directly in front of us around shoulder height, hands perfectly straight. We're going to open up by bringing our hands back as far as possible
while keeping our elbows out on a 90-degree angle. Come back smooth and controlled. If you find this movement is too difficult for core stabilization, we can do one arm at a time while using the other one to hold onto our tire. For our YTWL exercise, you'll notice that I did them in a leaned over position. If you don't feel very safe and comfortable in that position, you can also do this exercise sitting upright or put a pillow on your lap for safety purposes.
To start this exercise, we want to be leaned forward with a straight back, arms directly in front of us with our thumbs pointed upwards. We're going to open up by forming a Y with our arms, squeezing our shoulder blades together at the top, holding for a second, and coming down smooth and controlled.
For our L movement, our backs are going to be in the same position, but we're going to bend our arms so our elbows are at 90 degrees. We're going to lift our elbows and our hands back as far as possible. Hold for a second, squeezing the shoulder blades, and coming back in a smooth, controlled movement. The W movement is going to be very similar to the L movement. The only difference is we're going to drop the elbows down. Lastly, for our T movement, we're going to start out arms straight, 90 degrees, palms together, and bring the back of our hands as far back as possible, forming a T. Again, squeezing the shoulder blades together and coming back in a smooth, controlled movement. For our core twist, we're going to start with our arms straight, hands locked together, shoulder height. We're going to twist this side as far as we can, hold for a second, and come back towards the middle. If you find it's too difficult to keep your arms straight out, we can do it with our hands on our lap or with our elbows bent. If you find the core twists are getting too easy, we can also increase the resistance by using a band, attaching it to the opposite side, and pulling it with us throughout the whole movement. For the Pallof press, we're going to start by attaching the band behind us and to the side. The further away it is, the more difficult it'll be. We're going to keep our elbows directly by our side, hands together. We're going to extend our arms so they're perfectly straight and hold out at the end. Where you're holding out will be the most difficult part of the movement, so if you want to make it harder, we can just hold that longer. If that exercise is getting too easy for you, we can do the same movement, but after we've extended our arms, we can raise our hands above our head, increasing the tension in the band and overall time, making it more difficult. Remember, these are all core exercises, so we want to keep our back off the chair as much as possible to make sure we're working the core muscles harder. For our frontal raise, we're going to take the band, put it around the hub of the wheel and around our backs. Then we're going to keep our hand in a straight line with our elbow and shoulder, bringing it forward up until shoulder height and back down smooth and controlled. For our flies, we're going to lean back in the wheelchair. Again, if you don't feel like this is a safe position, don't do this exercise. I'm going to keep the arm slightly bent at the elbow, come down just below shoulder height, and bring it up directly above our head. You can see here that the band is right underneath the tire, and again around our backs, being held down by the other hand.